Patrick, guess what came in the mail today?
Oh, what?
This.
Stick it in!
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to a special episode of the MK Productions podcast, aka episode 130. I'm Mac, joined here as usual by my co-host, aka my friend and my partner in crime, Kristin, aka Miss Flamingo. How you doing today, Kristin?
I'm good. How are you? We got another great episode. A mini-sode.
Yes, we were drowning our sorrows with Madam Web, but we bounced back with something that is much better than Madam Web because we're going to be talking about a new upcoming film called Boneyard, and Kristin got the opportunity to sit down with the director, Asif Akbar. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
That is exciting.
Yeah, it was kind of exciting because we got approached by Lionsgate again, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to check out this movie starring, Brian Van Holt?" 50 Cent, and
G-Unit.
Out of all people teaming up with this film, Mel Gibson.
Listen, it's okay. It's Mad Max.
It's okay. I love Mad Max. I got to talk with Asif, and he talked about working with Mel Gibson and getting him on this project and wanting to tell this story that's based on like true events and everything that's going on with this certain subject matter that's happening in the film. So, the Boneyard, let's get into the synopsis of it. So, again, starring Brian Van Holt, 50 Cent, and Mel Gibson. This is set in like the New Mexico desert. So, when the skeptical remains of 11 women and girls are discovered in New Mexico desert, an extensive investigation is launched. Inspired by true crime stories, this chilling crime thriller follows Chief Carter, 50 Cent, Detective Ortega, Brian Van Holt, and Agent Petrovolic, that's played by Mel Gibson, in a multi-agency effort to identify and apprehend the killer. As each of their agendas and methods clash, a tangled web and a tree casts suspicion in all directions. So it's an action thriller thing. We've been getting a lot of action thrillers lately, which I don't mind. And I tend to enjoy them. And this film is set to release on VOD starting July 5th. And then well, according to me, it says
it says July 2nd.
Yeah, so July 2nd. And yeah, so if you want to check it out, it's going to be in theaters and all that good stuff. So I kind of enjoyed it. I liked the performances of Mel Gibson and 50 Cent, whether you like him or not as an actor.
It's Curtis Jackson, ma'am.
Oh, excuse
it's not
me.
50. It's not.
I grew up knowing him as 50 Cent.
It's a Curtis Jackson. Yeah,
I grew up knowing him as the candy shop guy. Let me take you to the candy shop.
Yeah, I agreed. I did enjoy this film. I remember when you told me that we would have the opportunity, and I heard it was in it. I was like, okay, we need to get this right, because I'm gonna say this. I like 50 Cent I think he's an okay actor.
He's okay.
He has his moments because he's just entertaining to me, and seeing him as a cop was like, okay, this is something I gotta watch. And this was a surprisingly good thriller. I thought it was interesting. It did make me want to look into the events that they're saying that it's based on. I didn't, but
I didn't know anything about it, honestly.
Me neither. I didn't even know that this I'm not sure if this is based on a singular true event or is it just multiple pieces.
Based on what they're looking at is one particular person, and they haven't been able to find this particular individual because what's in the film, you see the multiple bodies that are just discovered, and they haven't found the right target yet, and they still to this day haven't found the right person.
Oh God.
If you're a fan of true crime, then this is the film I would say you would want to check out, and especially knowing a case that should be very important. And it's a good thing this is being brought to light, because I didn't know about it, like I just said earlier. So
I was gonna say, especially with I was talking about this at my function I was at. We were talking about true crime, and I've noticed that like a lot of true crime media since probably the pandemic has taken off. So this being based on a real life case, that should draw in a lot of the true crime buffs that want to learn more about this, So I wouldn't be surprised if when this releases, it gets very big in the big podcast community with the true crime talking about the story if they haven't talked about it already.
Mm-hmm. So I'm ready to jump into my interview with Asif. Are you ready to hear it?
Yes, I'm curious to see what he has to say.
Wonderful. And don't forget, guys, go check this film out that is being released by Lionsgate. And thank you again to Lionsgate for letting us connect with Asif. And for now, enjoy our interview. Hello,
Hi,
how are you
Kristin.
doing?
I'm
Congratulations on
well.
all the hard work on the film.
Thank you, and thank you for having me on.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you. So before we get into the film, I want to get to know you as a filmmaker. So what drives you in wanting to tell stories?
Well, I've always wanted to tell stories ever since I can remember when I was like 3, 4 years old, because I was always so inspired by, watching TV and seeing these stories that I always kind of carried on in my head after it was over, and to me that was always fascinating to be able to be inspired from someone else's stories. So I wanted to be a storyteller and inspire others.
Now you work with like a big name in this film, Mel Gibson. Is there any of like his work that inspired you that wanting to put this film out there?
Absolutely. I mean, he's inspired me from Braveheart, Lethal Weapon, Mad Max on from, back in the day when I was a kid. Never in a million years could I imagine I would direct him. But yeah, I mean, even working with him was an inspiration, like seeing his energy and his commitment and his respect in the craft. It's just, helps me stay humble too. And, you know, to see him over the years through his films, and then to get to know him, working with him, definitely showed me that, it's the man behind his work that, made me really get inspired from even before when I knew him. So um, even now, I'm pinching myself that, that we did this.
I was going through your filmography and I didn't notice you worked with a lot of incredible people and just people that like I was surprised you got to work with like Mickey Rourke, Toblin Bell, Frank
Mhm.
Grillo. So you've been pretty lucky. So what does it mean to you to have not just Mel Gibson but 50 Cent and Brian Vanderholt on this project? How did you get them to say yes?
They were all, I mean, great. First, I was able to get Mel's commitment on the film. He was the first actor we approached, and he was my first choice for the Agent Petrovic role. And we were very lucky enough to, get him to say yes. And then once he said yes, everyone kind of fell into place, and we were very careful in selecting each of the actors for the roles because, it's a sensitive subject matter. We wanted to make sure they were aware of the type of role they were taking on. Like, for example, Brian Van Holt, he was playing a detective with so many different layers, and he comes from a great experience of playing a detective in New Mexico from the show Deputy. He did that for years. He was around when the real life case of the West Mesa murders was happening. That investigation was ongoing in New Mexico. He was there for it. He was aware of it. Just like that, a lot of the actors that you see were either some way connected, to New Mexico at that time, or have been aware of certain, similar cases that they've been familiar with or have experienced. So a lot of it came from real life experiences for these actors to project on screen. For example, Vince McDaniel, who's also my co-writer on this as well, he plays the role of Graham. He knows people from being in New Mexico that were very similar to that character around that time. So
Right.
there's a lot of interesting connections with some of the cast and some of the real life inspirations we've received.
So you brought up, and it's based on the Mesa murders, excuse me if I mispronounced that. But how did you approach the subject matter? Because it is very serious. And how much research did you do along with the other writers of the film?
Well, like I said, when I came on board, Vincent, brought the project to me. At that time, they had a draft that Vince and Hank Burt wrote back. about 8 years ago is when Vince brought the project to me to collaborate on, because at the time we were working on other projects, and over the last several years we've made many films together, and it was just a timing thing and developing the script to be right for the vision that we wanted to put out there with this kind of a story. And we wanted to take pieces from different true crime stories to bring awareness of this kind of a subject matter. And the serial killer issue is a global issue,
Yeah.
from what we even discovered through our research for the script and even pre-production on the film. It's just unbelievable. Some of this stuff you can't write. Strange, the truth is so much stranger than fiction. It's something you can't even really put in a movie. But for us, like, we needed to take different pieces and bring awareness to the audience to be
Right.
able to protect themselves, or be able to shed light on this case to possibly maybe even close this or other cold cases that are out there.
It just is a fascinating piece because it's like one of those crime cases that doesn't get solved, where the murderer never gets, arrested, or no other suspects. Yeah, there are suspects, like as you show in the film, but it's amazing to me that nothing to this day has been actually cracked in the case, where it's like, okay, we got the real guy.
Well, the one interesting thing about these cases and what happened even on the West Mesa murders case was that there were a lot of other cases and killers that were caught because of the investigation of this particular case. For example, the West Mesa case, because of those missing persons cases, every missing persons case from that time period, I think it was between 2003 on to 2009, every missing persons case was being investigated with the same
Wow.
importance, that were being overlooked. And so
Yeah.
there were cases that were solved that would have never been solved because of this getting the attention it received. So same concept here that we have with our goal is to shed light on these cases so that they can be looked at again and brought to the public's awareness of demanding certain things. Like, recently the Albuquerque Police Department also issued $100,000 reward on tips for the West Mesa murders, case. So just like that, if that can help, I mean, that's kind of our goal right here.
Well, I appreciate that wanting to expose this more to a much wider audience. I really enjoyed hearing that. So, what is next for you as a filmmaker? Are you working on any projects going forward after this?
Yeah, so we're working on a docuseries based on the real West Mesa murders case. Working with some of the victims' family members and law enforcement to kind of tell the true story of that, along with I have a TV series that's going into production next month called A Motel, and I have two other feature films that I'm currently developing right now as well.
Amazing. Well, I'll just wrap it up and just say thank you so much for your time. It was a great honor to speak with you.